Hey guys, it's Purple Ferret here. Welcome back to another speed paint. I originally painted this in September. I was slightly inspired by the Step On Up song that was released, but I was mostly inspired by The Secret of the Mimic having an older form of Monty in the Springlock form. It was also kind of inspired by the Monty cutouts of One Man Jug Band Monty in the Ride and Ruin. It's been over a month since I drew this, so forgive me if I remember things incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure at this point in the process I was still trying to decide whether or not I was going for more cartoony or more animatronic. And I also had some issues where it would randomly stop recording whenever I would go check my references, and so I had to remember to start recording again after I would check my references, and sometimes I would forget to do that, so there will be some jump cuts. Those aren't intentional. It's just I don't have footage of that stuff. And none of the cuts are really major. It's not like the last one where the entire last stretch of drawing was gone. This one, it's just a bunch of minor things that are missing, so it's not a big deal, but it's not the whole process, unfortunately, even though I wanted it to be. I think around this point is when I decided that I wanted it to be full on animatronics, but like not entirely accurate to specifically the Springlock Monty, because I wanted to take inspiration from the cutout from Ruin, specifically for the hair, because I wanted him to have hair like the glam rock version of himself, even though the Springlock and the Welcome Show Monty, neither of them have hair. I also gave him the base, like the homemade base that he has, because the cutout version has a base that looks like it's been duct taped. I just think that's funny, so I added it. On a slightly different note, actually on a completely different note, I recently saw a video where this person was talking about how you should do color underneath your sketch before you do your line art. And I saw that recently now and not a month ago, because I'm recording this in October. It's probably not going to come out till November because it's the 31st. I had a video go up today, so even if I did finish it today, I'm probably going to wait a week to upload this. So it's definitely coming out in November, actually. But the video said you should do that because it helps you figure out the rough shapes and tells you if anything's wrong before you get to the line art. And then you turn off the line art. Well, no, you turn off the colors and then you do the line art. And so when you come back with the colors, you're seeing them with fresh eyes, and then you're like, whoa, these colors are all wrong. Which is a thing that happens later to me. It's also a thing that I think happened last speed paint too, because I realized that between the sketch and the final line art, I made the colors way more contrasty and more saturated than they were in the sketch. So yeah, now that I think about it, it's probably exactly what happened last time. And here I'm touching up the colors after I adjusted the sketch, because I realized, even at this point, I haven't even fixed it all the way. I realized that the base looked really awkward, but I didn't really fix it there because I was like, I can fix it in the line art stage. This will just make it easier to fix it in the line art stage. And it did to an extent, but not really. I just thought of something that was also happening at the time that I was making this, and why I haven't done any more speed paints since then. So I don't have a backlog or anything. I'm probably going to do another one to have ready after this one, but I don't currently have any ready. And that's because This is gonna sound really stupid, but um, I have like friends that like weren't really into Five Nights at Freddy's, and they when the movie came out, like watched it and like it's a decent movie, so like I get why there's an uptake in interest in something that I like after that movie. And since the second one's coming out in December, I jokingly offered a FNaF 101 class to these friends, and they took it very seriously. And so I was leading a class on FNaF. I've only done two sessions because it was a lot easier to write the first two lessons off the top of my head than it is to write the third one, because the first one was just explaining why we can't go in timeline order and FNAF 1, and then I fit 2 and 3 into one, and then 4. I have less experience with FNAF 4, so I was like, if I'm gonna do this right, I need to do some more research. And so, um, yeah, research is taking longer than I thought, but I just think it's funny that I ended up doing that. And I get into character when I do that. Like I act like I'm a real professor for a second, not entirely. And on the slide it has my fake professor name. Emphasis on fake name because it's the name that these friends know me by, because online friends, but they know it's my fake name because they know my real name. I thought it'd be funnier if I put my fake name as the professor name because it's a silly name that I made up. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I wanted to record the sessions, not live sessions where people are talking, but record me giving the lesson so that the friends that want to join but are going to be completely and totally lost, they can just watch those to get caught up. And I was kind of wondering if I should post those on my channel for that reason, because I can always make the videos unlisted and send it to them that way, but I could also make them public so that you all can watch them too. You're not going to be able to figure out who I am based on the fake name, so it doesn't matter. But if you all would be interested, I would be glad to upload it in a way that you all can watch it too. So if you all want that, FNAF lore lessons for fun, let me know. Here I'm working on the base. As you can see, the trajectory of the base changed dramatically. I had to turn off the sketch layer to actually see what I was trying to do because the sketch was throwing me off. And I had to completely reposition the arm because it looked awkward the way it was, and the way it was also not in line with the new base. So you can see that I repositioned how the hand was on the base entirely also, because that hand, I didn't like it from the start, but I didn't want to fix it until now. And I'm glad I fixed it at this point because I forgot I fixed it and I was going to be very disappointed in myself if I didn't. I think the most fun that I had with this drawing was the spring Monty, because I was kind of doing my own thing with his design, and so it was kind of like making an OC with heavy reference, and it was more fun than drawing Monty. I should draw Monty more often because I feel like he's an underappreciated character. At least he was underappreciated by me for a hot minute until we got to Ruin. Because in Ruin, I was all like, yes. Because before Ruin, I was just like, he's the angry one. And then we got to Ruin, And he was kind of still the angry one, but they gave him a cute little backstory, and I was like, yes. He was just so cute in his little backstory, even if it was in no way how the animatronic Monty was at all. I mean, in a way it was, because of we learn in Secret of the Mimic of his true origins as a character, so it mirrors that a little bit, but it added something to the glam rock version specifically that wasn't there before. He's also the second animatronic in the main band to not be a mammal, because I know Happy Frog exists and she existed before Monty, but she was part of the Mediocre Melodies and not part of the Fazbear band. So even though I do like her design, she doesn't really count. Right now I'm doing my best to refine the shading and color placement on the characters because things shifted around a lot, including Monty's tail. Proto Monty has the whole base thing going on that shifted a lot, and so colors danced around a little bit. And all in all, things need changed, and the shading needs to be better than just, oh, here's a little bit of shading. Like, it needs to make a little bit more sense now. The brushstrokes also look a little streaky at this point, which I picked this brush for a reason, so it's okay that it is a little, but I fix it later to look a little bit smoother, and I think it looks better after that. I tried to focus on coloring one character at a time. I know there's only 2 of them, but it felt important to try and separate them out so that whenever I got burnt out on one, I could swap over. And here I'm working on the pattern on his pants because I realized that he really needed those, and I decided to start with the darker color and do the lighter color on top, which may have been the wrong decision, but it was what I wound up doing, and I think it looks okay at that point. It definitely looks better than it was without the pattern, but I wish I'd done more with it because it could be better than it is. I also added in the spots on his arms and on his cheek because those are important too. And now we're switching over to Proto Monty because Monty's pretty much done at this point. I'm going to come back and add shading later once we get the lighting situation figured out. But overall, the base shading and coloring looks pretty good at that point. And so, by comparison, Proto Monty was really lacking. I also had a little trouble with his colors because, unlike Monty, who is all shiny and well lit in his character render, the Springlock suit Monty is very like old looking and weathered, so like you can't really see his true colors exactly. So I ended up using colors from Monty and shifting them just a little bit, but not a whole lot. It feels a little bit weird that the rest of the background is on a separate layer, but the stump and the grass aren't. Like, I know it's because I kind of arbitrarily put down the grass color without thinking, but I kind of regret putting them on the same layer as the characters because it made it a lot harder to color in the grass and the stump in the long run, and I will probably not do that again, knowing that, but knowing me also, I will probably make the same mistake again because it probably will happen when I've forgotten why I do it like that in the first place. Overall, I'm just fixing the layout of the colors and starting to fix the shading. I haven't quite figured out at this point how I'm going to shade it, but spoiler alert, things are going to get a lot darker and not like bloody. I mean, like, actually, it's going to physically lower in the light level because The contrast needs to be higher in order for it to look like a light is shining on Glamrock Monty. I also had moments where I noticed while I was coloring where the line art didn't line up where it should. I think the Springlock design that I ended up going with, where it's not entirely accurate to the Springlock suit in Secret of the Mimic, it looks very good considering I had limited reference and added my own touches. For example, I added a little bit of yellow on his chest, even though it doesn't appear to be present on the Springlock design, just because I wanted him to match Glamrock Monty a little bit more. Here I'm starting to darken up the colors a little bit. It does get darker than even this, I believe, but I realized just how bright he was by comparison. So I was like, he needs more than just a highlight and a base color. He needs to be almost entirely shaded in by comparison to Monty. Monty also needs a little bit more shading, but we get there eventually. I spent most of the process while I was making this listening to Step On Up on repeat. So right now I'm hearing it a little bit in my head because it's just so vivid of memory because it's tied to music. So I'm trying so hard not to hum the song right now. And if it wasn't copyrighted, I would definitely put it in the video. I mean, it's not like it matters because I'm not making money off of my videos anyway. But if one day I were to and I wanted to monetize, it'd be extremely hard to monetize this video if it had a copyrighted song in it. We're getting close to the end now, and as you can see, the shading's getting even darker and the lights are getting even brighter. I'm adding another layer to add like the highlights and stuff because going over top of the line art layer with the highlights just makes them pop a little bit more than when they're underneath the line art. I'm also using a different brush to add like a bit of bloom to the side of Monty and to the add more shading behind Proto Monty because I could never in a million years get it that smooth with the brush I was using, and it needed to be smooth in order to look nicer than what it was going to. So I did my best in other things to try and get that effect, so I just switched brushes because I was not willing to do that. And here we're finishing it up. Finally, here is the final product, and here we're about to switch to the sketch. And here we're going to switch back to the final image. I think it looks really nice in comparison, and I really like comparing to the old version of it because if I had stopped there, it would have looked so different. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!